Hello, everybody. Welcome to our workshop. My name is Sai Gatupali, and with me is my colleague Willy, along with most of our team members who were also attending this remotely. We are really glad to be presenting at AIED 2023 workshop. Our work is titled Exploring Pre-Service Teachers' Perceptions of Large Language Model Generated Hints in Online Math Learning. Our work directly stems from the recent Dear Colleagues letter from the National Science Foundation, where the agency calls for immediate research in LLMs and education because of the intense potential that artificial intelligence has in education. Our work specifically focuses in math education, where online math learning is a prominent way, is a traditional way of teaching math in classrooms and in remote. In math learning, especially, the hints are of high importance, especially for their scaffolding ability. And to create these hints, we need teachers who have experience working with students from all backgrounds. And it's very hard to find these teachers. On top of this, creating hints with pedagogical value is a time-consuming process, takes a long time. So our work directly focuses on exploring the effectiveness of these hints, but rather generated by large language models. And then how does this scale to online math learning? For this, our research question is says, how do pre-service teachers perceive the effectiveness and appropriateness of transformer generated hints in comparison to human crafted hints? For this, we worked with pre-service teachers from a university in the East Coast of United States. We had access to 33 pre-service teachers who were all given a survey in the Qualtrics system. They had 5 questions to answer, and each question had multiple hints to pick from. And there is also an option for them to explain their justification and explain what made them choose one option. To avoid any confusion or avoid any potential biases, we did not inform the participants about which of these hints is human crafted and which of these hints is transformer generated. To generate our hints using GPT, particularly ChatGPT-4, we used prompt engineering techniques from a public GitHub repository. And this is the real actual prompt we used, where if you see at the very bottom in the parenthesis, we input the real problem and it generates the hints accordingly. And now my colleague will take over. Will?
Thank you, Sai. Before we jump into the result that we identified and collected from our data, we want to give everyone an idea about some of the analysis that we did. One of the analysis that we did was using a pre-trained language model called BART, B-A-R-T, to do summarization of participants' written feedback. We also use a second pre-trained language model called BERT, B-E-R-T, to do what's called thematic analysis or sometimes called topic modeling. And on top of that, we also use k-mean clustering to basically feed the embedding generator or computer from the BERT model and identify some of the related or similar the comments and categorize them in different groups. So we first basically look at the number of times that participants select their preferred choice of hint. And for 2 of the question, we actually see that human generated or human crafted hint was actually preferred by our participant over transformer generated hints. The other 2 questions, we see the other way around. Basically, we saw that participants for these 2 questions prefer transformer generated hints, and we'll talk about some of the reason why that is.
Wait. Oh, sorry. Continue.
And as you can see on the right hand side, we look at the thematic analysis and a topic identifier. As you can see that for the transformer generated hint, the reason our participants choose those kind of hints is because they like the step-by-step walkthrough, they like the guidance, they like the walkthrough and explanation going from one stage to the next. Whereas if you look at the table below that, which is the topic or the feedback that our participants gave us, why they chose human crafted hint, and one of the main reason is that they like the visual cues, the pictures, which currently Transformers not quite able to do that yet. And on top of that, you can also see that the feedback and also the comment grouped up based on k-mean clusterings. So for examples, in the blue group, you can see that most of the comment that we look at, we saw in the blue points are basically pointing to visual feedback or pictures, easy to see. And so that tell us why our participants prefer human crafted hint versus transformer generated hints. And so what did we learn from this? One thing we learned from that is for human crafted hint, our participant really like the ease of understanding of the hint. They absolutely like the visual aid, the visual cue that human crafted hint provided to them. For the transformer generated hint, we saw that participants really like the idea that transformers step through them step by step, how to resolve and troubleshoot a problem. They also like the guidance. So one of the potential implications that we see is in the future is not just provide step-by-step guidance, but also doing that in a conversational manner such that the participants is actually able to go back, ask question, transformer would then generate a more step-by-step hint based on what they ask. An interesting finding that we also saw is a mixed result. We actually saw that in one of the questions, the participant essentially have a mixed reaction about that. And one thing we speculate is the reason behind that is because that particular question was framed in a manner that is third person narrative story like approach. And we think that is because of that manner that basically potentially negate the effectiveness of the hints. So in conclusion, what we have done, as I mentioned at the beginning, is that we look at the pre-survey teachers' perceptions about the effectiveness of transform generated hint versus human crafted hint. And one thing that actually surprised us is that we find out at the very end 54% of our participants prefer transformer generated hint. And again, this going back to the idea that transformer was able to provide simple but yet detailed enough walkthrough and guidance to basically guide the participants to solving problems. And while there were 46% of our participants still prefer human creator hint, and the main reasons because of the pictures, the visual cue, the visualization that human crafted hint was able to provide.
Now, coming to the future work and then how this guides us in this fusion of online learning and AI, right? There are some things that we feel this is really informing us in terms of the road ahead, and it's calling us to optimize and appraise these language models that can interpret learner behaviors, you see. And then also in terms of data-driven adaptations, we can now supply all the log data from any intelligent tutoring system out there to have an adaptive and equitable learning environment for any learner, right? And then on top of this, also enhancing the pedagogical approaches in this digital learning and personalized learning is something that we are also looking forward to in terms of the potential development prospects that this is supplying us with now, right? And then also in terms of using ChatGPT as a conversational chatbot, we feel that we are now able to integrate that conversationalist perspective with any learning companion that somebody is using in their existing intelligent tutoring systems, and make those from like static predefined responses to a more personalized, more intimate connection between the human and the bot to have a more conversational learning approach. And that concludes our presentation. We are open to taking your questions. Thank you.